primary ignition.
I'm just not the hero type, clearly.
What a piece of junk.
Enterprise, this is the captain.
I got a bad feeling about this.
It's all part of the plan.
Engage.
Welcome back to Podcast for One. I'm your host, Donovan Thompson, with my co-host,
Daniel Wingfield.
and today's episode 214 of Podcast 2 for One, youtube.com/@2for1 Studios. Guys and gals, it is the best place to consume all the content. And if you didn't know, listeners, and let's be honest, you probably did not, we are sponsored by Kapow Comics, located at 4047 East Kill Avenue in Sherwood, Arkansas. There they have comic books, collectibles, graphic novels, and of course, special guest appearances throughout the year.
Kapow.
Kapow. Daniel, it's episode 214. Last week we talked House of the Dragon, or 2 weeks ago, whenever this airs, not quite sure. And we're also gearing up for another great movie review with Dr. Bruce Hutchinson when we talk about Alien Romulus.
Ooh wee mama.
I'm actually really excited about that. We haven't done very many movie reviews with the Doctor.
I mean, except for the first one ever, which was 1917.
1917.
That's how it started, was with watching a movie and then reviewing it like the next week or whatever.
I think so. I think you're right. Or a couple. I know we went immediately from the screening to recording.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Back when we had a good podcast set up and it was pretty and looked professional, and we're getting comments like, "How do you guys not have any more subscribers?" And now everyone says it makes sense why you don't have more subscribers.
Yeah, they are. They're always commenting that under every video. It makes
maybe
sense.
It's the same guy. Yeah, it makes sense.
Sorry, that's my alt account. I'll stop.
Okay, please. It hurts me. So anyway, we've kind of been talking a lot of TV shows and those kind of things. I'd kind of like to bring it back a little bit to some more news kind of stuff. Yeah. And as you know, we had in D23 a couple of weeks back where we had a lot of Pixar, Marvel, and Disney kind of announcements. And for people who don't know, D23 is kind of like a catch-all event for fans, for the investors, for the people who work at Disney to kind of celebrate Disney, but also kind of set up the future market of the company, kind of like adding stock numbers or stockholders, those kind of things, and kind of make sure everyone is feeling good about the direction, as well as getting kind of hyped. So a lot of cool Disney stuff like Incredibles 3, which I thought was really great.
Incredibles 2 was such a disappointment to me. I'm not excited about Incredibles 3.
I think you're wrong. I think
Incredibles 2, they had to relearn every lesson they learned in Incredibles 1, which makes no sense from progression level. They were learning the same lessons over again. And the plot story, it was so fucking clunky. It was not, Incredibles 1 is a like A++ S tier superhero parody. Period. It's amazing. Incredibles 2 is a weird continuation of that story that neglects the lessons the characters that I thought learned in the first one, and just feels like a money grab to me. I'm sorry, I had to. I had so many issues with that film.
I am not married to Incredibles 2 at all, and I do think it's an inferior film to the first one
by much of a margin, in my opinion.
But now that you're bringing it up, because one of the things we broke down in school with the Doctor is Incredibles 1, and now I would love to break down Incredibles 2
with him. That'd be great.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
It's a great one. That's because I'd like to settle this.
And we haven't done like anything that's Pixar-y, like nothing that's like kind of a children's
on the channel. Yes,
kind of thing.
I agree 100%. That's a good idea. So anyway, Incredibles 3, Brad Bird's coming back. I think that's great news, even if you don't like the second one as much. It's still a pretty solid film overall. Toy Story 5, Lilo and Stitch, whatever. We're here for Marvel, DC, and Star Wars, right? On the Star Wars front, we had Skeleton Crew, which you and I had previous conversations about, where, I'm in because it's Star Wars. I'm not sure, it's gonna be the best thing ever, but I like John Watts enough, and it's gonna be fun. I think the trailer very, very well made, but also most of these trailers are very well made. And so after the Acolyte, I am trepidatious, to say the least.
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, I haven't given up on Star Wars, but I'm a bit apathetic towards the franchise right now. Like, I'm not expecting anything to come out and entice me. I'm not expecting anything to come out and be really good, other than Andor season 2. That is the one thing that is like the literal like exception to all of it. But to me, that almost makes it feel like its own universe. It almost makes it feel like, because the quality is so good, it just is like, does not feel like the same franchise. And how seriously they take themselves, and how seriously they take the world. It's just like, oh, this feels like a different
much different.
Anyway, Go ahead.
in March, season 2 will be dropping 2025. I could be wrong on that date. Maybe it's a little later.
Are we getting it in 2 halves, or is it?
I think we're getting
It's
it
a longer one though, right?
No, I think it's about the same, but I
Okay.
think it's week to week, like we have been doing.
Okay.
It's not like a drop all at once.
It's
I
the
will be
kind of
looking
show that you
forward.
can do that with, and I think you should probably.
You should, yeah. I mean, every streamer really should for the most part. But I'm looking forward to the season 1 rewatch, and I'm also looking forward to, that you put it back on my radar, the Star Wars Outlaws.
Yeah,
a couple
in
weeks
7
or a
days.
week.
Comes out next Friday.
That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
You said it, and then I saw a trailer for it, and I was like, oh yeah, okay.
That's why the
Honestly,
iPhone was listening to the text message and then was like,
It
"Oh,
probably was.
yeah. No, yeah. Star Wars Outlaws. Listen, I'm not a Ubisoft fanboy. I do enjoy their games. I don't love them, but they're just like it's like comfort food to me. It's like junk food. It's like there's nice little dopamine hits everywhere you go. The story's
Yes.
never gonna move me, but it's fun combat or fun gameplay. So if that's all that we get, but in a Star Wars world, I'm gonna be pretty happy. You know what I mean? I don't need the story to blow me away. Now, like, I've been seeing some of the gameplay, and it does. Like, I have been seeing comparisons, and they are saying that they really kind of tried to model the game more after like Red Dead 2 in a lot of ways, where it's like you are playing a character and you have some like you can make decisions for them that kind of shape who they are, but you are still playing a specific character. And then a lot of the like story moments are kind of scripted gameplay moments, like pretty much on rails. You know, you're just very, very like Uncharted-y, or like I mean, honestly, it's the Rockstar formula, right? It's an open world, but every time you play a mission, it's like a linear game for the next 30 minutes while you're in that mission. So it very much looks like that. And so, you know, if they give us fun worlds to explore, fun gameplay, and just like I get to go wherever I want in a Star Wars game, like the fact that this is the first ever open world single player Star Wars game ever is bonkers. You know what I mean? Like
Pretty cool.
it's like, but it's also just like, this was an obvious play 15 years ago. Like,
For sure.
people were saying, why don't we just get a good open world Star Wars RPG 15 years ago? And someone's getting their shit together enough to do it. Anyway, I'm excited. I'm not expecting it to be my game of the year by any means, but I am expecting to have a good time with it.
You know, a couple weeks back, Matt had never really he like seen a little bit of gameplay and played a little bit, but never really got into them or started them in any meaningful way. Star Wars Jedi Survivor or Fallen Order.
Yeah.
And I was there when he played the last fourth of the game, which is really when the game starts.
The first game?
No, the Fallen Order, or no, Survivor. Sorry. And so it was really cool seeing that again, and like being like, man, this is actually like kind of Star Wars I enjoy, where there's characters I care about. Like I love the guy, the pilot. Cal Kestis is great. The pilot, even his friend who has been in a lot of
the Night
Sabine's
the
great.
Night Sister.
God, she's such a fun character.
Yeah, she is.
I love her.
It's like it really is like wild how they're like Survivor is nailing not only the gameplay and like that part of it, and it's great, but it is nailing the feel of like the ragtag group of people, you know, trying to save the galaxy kind of feel. So he liked Survivor. He liked the games.
I think he loved both. He loved both of them actually. And the cool thing was
games, man. Great
one
games.
of the last. Maybe you did this. I didn't know this existed until he I guess knew about it beforehand, but he did it, and I was there when he showed me. But at the very last thing, if you do like all the side missions and you like do all the bounties and the assassin stuff, Boba Fett shows up.
Yeah.
That's
I knew
super
about it. I
cool.
never did it, but I knew about it. Yeah.
So I watched it. It was a cool little thing, and kind of segue in there is Boba Fett, you know, Tamora Morrison has come out and talked. He's been pretty vocal about his distaste of Mandalorian kind of coming in and taking the spotlight, so to speak. And there's been very up in the air about a season 2 of Boba Fett. And he said that the original plan was, because there was Mando and Grogu information at D23, the original plan was that in season 4, Boba Fett was going to be in it. But now that that's not happening as of right now, that he's, you know, that's been scrapped, and also he's not going to be in this new movie. Now, of course, he could be.
He said something about like the reception to the show kind of determined.
Yeah.
Which I feel bad for him, because I don't feel like it was his fault the show was bad
at
all.
all.
Now, that is to say, I don't think Tamora Morrison is ever going to be a scene stealer. I just don't think he's that caliber of actor. I just haven't seen that in him. So
No.
like there is a ceiling on how interesting maybe his character can be with,
Yeah.
but that show could have been so much better than it was. And
I agree.
had nothing to do with his performance or what he had
Yes.
to do with it. So I feel bad for him that way,
Obviously,
but yeah.
you can do any character in a way where you really care about them emotionally and it resonates
Yep.
with you. But some characters, it's easier to just sprinkle them in, kind of like Hulk
Yes.
and Boba Fett, where sometimes, or even like the origin of Wolverine, right? Because sometimes characters are cooler when you don't know too much about them.
Sure.
And Boba Fett's whole thing was like, man, he's such a badass. We don't know a whole lot about
So
him.
it has the mystique. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a way to do it in a really interesting way, but
I
you
mean,
have to
even
nail
if you
it.
just made the show and he was more of a anti-hero, way more interesting. If he's willing to make the, if we don't turn it
Yeah.
into like a, Hardy Boys, let's get the moped gang together and save the day with the kids kind of like show, and it was like this
Yeah.
gritty, he's reestablishing his criminal empire and he's kind of Walter White-esque maybe in what things he's willing, like that alone is just like 10 times more interesting and more cool and adds something to the to the world of Star Wars that would have been so cool. Like to see him like he doesn't even have to talk a lot. Just make him a mix of Walter White and John Wick and let him just wreck shop. You know what I mean? Like that would have been such a great fun show. But it really does feel like it's so interesting because it feels like the things they tried to put into that show to almost make him a bigger character than he ever should have been. Like they're trying to make it this emotional, like feel good thing, and now the character's more of a good. I don't even know what their intention was, but like, yeah, it was just so misguided and so poorly executed
I
that
know. And it was on Tatooine, and it's like,
so
man,
bonkers to me.
there's a lot of hey, if listeners, if you care about Boba Fett, there's a whole podcast, multiple podcasts on the rise and fall of the Book of Boba Fett. So,
not to mention
check
that the end of the show isn't even his anymore; it turns into Mando and Grogu. But
yeah.
I mean, I think that's the thing, and it's such a theme of Star Wars and Disney, and it's just such a tiring theme to me. I'm just like, I just roll my eyes so hard every time a show gets canceled for any reason, and it's always because it's usually just not a good show. And then like
it's numbers.
The back
it really boils down.
The anti-backlash is, oh well, it just got canceled because of like the racism or the sexism or the bigotry shit. And
That's
like
crazy.
I don't think I sent did I send you guys the post I saw about it? I'm not sure I sent it to you and Travis. But it was basically like someone saying like, well, if the Acolyte got canceled for all these reasons, why is Game of Thrones succeeding? Why is House of Dragon popular?
A non-binary female, non-binary,
a non-binary
actress.
lead actress,
Yeah.
a female-driven cast where the females are the
100%.
lead characters.
And there's the
They
smartest people in the
changed
room.
an entire race in the books to being African American, like the ship
yeah.
people. They
Yeah,
just did
they're
that,
great. and they're
they're
great.
awesome.
Yeah.
The guy that plays Daenerys' hand is one of my favorite characters on the show. But you
love
know
his
what I mean?
hair.
Like it's like when you think about that and you're like, okay, those arguments are just fall over in the breeze. It's like you're not even serious people when you make those kinds of claims. Is how I feel. Like you're taking the piss out of this. You very well know this is not true, but this is a way to defend bad creatives and make them, not feel as bad that they just didn't execute. I mean, I don't know. It's
I had a long phone call the other day with a guy who's in the movie industry about this. And one thing we were talking about was if you're coming, it's something they've kind of all done lately, Star Wars. If you're coming out of the gate and you already have stories and blurbs and quotes, like basically racism is not tolerated here, those kind of things, and you're kind of already putting up this like mentality, or what I'm saying?
It's like saying
no real Star Wars fan ever is going into this thinking, oh, this is a black actor or a female. I mean, look at the original trilogy. Princess Leia is the smartest person in the group.
Mace Windu is the most badass Jedi that existed.
Lando Calrissian is one of the coolest fucking guys in all of fiction.
Yeah. No, what it does is it like when you start getting that before the show even comes out, To me, that's an admission that the show isn't actually very good, and what you're trying to do is
it's not an admission. It's a fear. It's a
Sure.
fear.
Well, but
that's not very good.
Sure, but to me, I'm like, I don't know of a show that's ever done that and actually still been good. Maybe there's examples.
I think they think their shit don't stink. I think Leslie Hanlon and all them are like,
to a degree, but like when
you don't get it, I think that's what.
But when you're doing that, when you're
it.
positioning the show even before it comes out as like, what you're almost trying to say is this show is bigger than the show. This show is about diversity. This show is about inclusion. This isn't just a story to be entertained with. This is like trying to fix the fucking world. And it's just like so fucking pretentious because for one, that's not how the world fucking works. You can't fix it with TV shows. Number two, this is just
You're
like
right.
this is
from a multi-billion-dollar corporation.
Oh my god, yes, that wants to be these like moral parrot. Like Disney wants to be seen as like leading the way in like moral issues, and it's just like sickening because it's like, no, you don't. You just want to make money, and this is what's hot right now. It's hot and popular to be like this, and so you're just seeing this as a business opportunity. But again, if you're saying that about your show before it even comes out, you're trying to make this argument like, well, if you're like. You're automatically positioning anyone that doesn't like it as a bigot. Just by it's just like
100%. Yeah,
I think I'm starting to see this on the internet, like on Reddit and comments and stuff, that people are starting to more quickly recognize it when it's happening and be like,
I think people are really over it.
This
really
is
do.
Really stupid. Yeah, and it's just to me, it's like. These guys, the people making these decisions must be so fucking insulated from reality.
Yeah, 100%.
To think this is working. Not even to think it's a good idea. Like, okay, maybe you thought it was a good idea, but to think it's working, to think anyone is buying this shit other than like the Disney adults who would buy shit if it was said it came from Mickey Mouse's ass anyway. It's just like, I'm just like, it just seems like so.
Well, I think
I don't even know what the word to say is.
Here's the kind of thing too: is whenever your identity politics or those kind of things are wrapped up in everything you do, and like that, and you get tunnel vision, right? And sometimes people can become so open-minded they become closed-minded again. Like it's like this weird open-closed situation. But I said it to say this is that, first of all. I think stories should be telling things. I think it's a place to reflect our reality. It's a place to
absolutely
those kind of things
to comment on our situation and on
100%.
humanity and the all of that.
But I think first and foremost, that kind of stuff only works if you are telling a really compelling and well written story, and that's their fault, and that's where they fucked up at. I don't care that there's. I never had once a single issue about the race of these characters, of the implications of some of these characters, whether they're straight, not straight, bi, somewhere in between, or all over. I don't care. I care about how fucking stupid the character decisions are made in this show.
Absolutely. I care about the shitty dialogue. I care about the shitty character logic. I care about the lack of character development. I'm talking about the, honestly, poor idea. I mean, we are one, we are two, we are many. Like who?
So bad.
Who did not step in and say, guys, this is corny as shit?
And the music and the credits, where it's like a pop song all of a sudden. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's
crazy.
And like, didn't they like hire a writer that like had never seen anything Star Wars before? That was like part
There's
of the
this
whole
thing that even here, like in Marvel, it's like we don't like to hire comic book write. Well, first of all, it's not true. There's literally comic book writers credited, like in Deadpool, Wolverine, and Spider-Man: No Way Home. But they said we don't like to hire people who read the comics because this is a different medium. I get that sentiment behind it. But
but it's also like if it's a hard and fast rule, it's stupid. It doesn't
exactly. You can find someone like us who have read. I've got literally 1,000 comic books sitting underneath me right now. But I guarantee you, I'm not gonna be blind. I'm not gonna be like, I got to get this exact right. This dialogue.
We're not gonna like treat it as like as fanboys, where it's all about getting your favorite moment from a character in a movie versus telling the best story that's possible to tell.
No, the best version of, I think, a creative like that dealing with an important IP is someone who understands the material, respects it, but is able to adapt it in a way that fits the medium they're trying to adapt it to.
Here's the best it's ever been done. Lord of the fucking Rings is the best, I think, adaptation that has ever existed, because the fans of the books love it just as much as the fans of the movies. The people that
You're
started
right.
with the
There is
books,
this undying love for Lord of the Rings.
the people
like
that
the trilogy.
started with the books and then found the movies, love them. The people that started with the movies and then found the books, love them both. And there's
Right.
such an understanding that, like, holy shit, Peter Jackson changed some big things in it. Like, he
did.
made some big changes in terms of, like, cutting out entire characters, cutting out entire plots, changing like arcs for entire characters, so many little things. But it absolutely is like, you watch the movies and you read the book and it's like you're hearing the same voice. It's like the same world. And it's like it's such a perfect translation of what Tolkien did in those books that it's just like I can't think of a better example where it's like they changed stuff and everyone loved it. They changed shit, and it was the right decision. And there's jokes about how Tom Bombadil should have been in the first movie and Jack Black should have played him. And yes, there's part of me that wants to see that, but I also realized that would have been bad for the movie. And it would have, you can watch the extended editions and realize these were good cuts. They needed to cut this stuff out. Even though as a fanboy, I enjoy seeing extra scenes and stuff. It slows down the movies. It makes them slower, even if they're more book accurate with those scenes in there. And most people, again, recognize that. It's like, it's kind of bonkers. Everyone loves everybody in the Lord of the Rings. Now, we're not talking about the new Amazon Prime show because there's.
We are not talking about that.
There you go. There's
Or The
another
Hobbit.
example. Look, they're trying to adapt the Tolkien world, and they're just fucking it up. You know what I mean? Like, and anyway,
it's hard to adapt it when you don't have the rights to it to begin with. Like not any meaningful rights, but there's a great episode on that as well. Podcast listeners, if you want
Hey,
to
and we're
Lord of the
getting,
Rings podcast,
talk about just new stuff coming out. We're getting a War of the Rohirrim anime.
I haven't seen the full
prequel.
trailer. I've seen pieces of it, but
I know
what's your
that the
thoughts
full
on it?
trailer starts with actual shots from the Two Towers, which
I've
is
seen that. I've seen that part.
strange choice to me.
Again, it's this thing where we can talk about it actually after Alien Romulus. Actually, I wanna do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't love I don't like really the animation style that Netflix does for all their like in-house animation stuff. It's not my favorite, but
Well, actually, there's a
It's
word
good,
for
it's
it. Member berries. You know what I'm talking about? You've heard that word, member berries?
yeah,
Yeah. So it's like, hey, remember this?
yes,
Hey, remember this? Member berries.
right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's a thing that in the 90s, 2000s, we really started getting like nostalgia kind of films where we're doing references in movies and those kind of things. And it has, even though I do love a lot of movies in the last 20, 30 years, there is this
Well, it's a shortcut. It feels like
It's a shortcut.
It's
yeah.
hey, we don't really. No one came to us and said, "I have to tell this story." We just saw a market opportunity, and now we're gonna make money off it, kind of thing. Is how it feels to me sometimes. Anyway.
Well, yeah. So anyway, I'm there's a lot to talk there about Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, and those kind of things. Mando and Grogu, they're in the middle of shooting right now.
We'll see.
We'll see. We'll see.
I mean, I'm guessing he wasn't there at all, pretty much on set at all.
Pedro? No. He's shooting Fantastic Four.
I gotta believe the helmet will come off in this movie. I just think,
I don't think so.
dude, I do. I think it's something that makes sense for like the emotional peak of the movie, probably to do.
They've already done it.
Now he
Season
might
2.
die. It might it might happen in a way where he like dies,
Ooh.
but like it's like the final moments. It has to
They
happen
have
to
to
do it,
kill
kind
the
of thing.
Mandalorian.
I could totally see it.
There's no way they'll kill him before they do a big crossover with fucking Ahsoka and all them. There's no way it's gonna happen.
Maybe so.
No way. That's a Avengers level movie in their brains.
Maybe so.
There's no way. I don't think so. So anyway, back to Marvel. A lot of cool things, a lot of cool announcements. We had full trailers for Captain America, The Brave New World. We got to see a full release of Harrison Ford as the Red Hulk. Again, there's a lot of leak stuff, and they have released some stuff as part of like an 85th anniversary trailer, where there's snippets of this kind of stuff. You can watch all the full leak trailers online if you dig hard enough. Not condoning that, but it is out there. And also stuff from Thunderbolts, things from Fantastic Four, some sizzle reels, those kind of things. I think a lot of cool information there.
Yeah.
Daredevil Born Again, lots of cool stuff there. I'm excited about. That comes out next March or February.
Them saying, I saw a quote, I think it was from Charlie Cox about how it's more brutal than the Netflix version. That it's like
Vincent D'Onofrio said that. Yeah,
edgier in some way, and so that
he
We'll
said,
see.
quote,
I don't know if I
there's
believe
something
it.
in there
but
I did that I never thought they'd let my character do,
yeah, yeah.
which is a great blurb. It's a great thing to say on a stage in
It's
front of
a
tons of
great way to
fans.
like generate a hype. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, Punisher.
Even
We
though
knew, we knew it
even
was
though it
coming.
could literally be, I always wanted to drink tea with my pinky out. You know what I mean?
100%. Never thought they would let Kingpin drink herbal tea or Irish Spring
Right.
tea.
I never thought they'd let me wear a white shirt. Yeah.
Yeah, never thought they would let me do it, but here we are. Yeah, so yeah. Anyway, I'm very curious. Most of all, this kind of stuff. Deadpool Wolverine really kind of reestablished the MCU as kind of like this is still important to a lot of people,
Yeah.
and the trick
If
here
you
is
do it
keeping it
right,
up to state.
yes. If you
Yeah,
do it right, people still care. That's what
exactly.
it told us. Yeah.
Well, and especially yeah, 100%. So the one thing I really kind of talk about the most here, Daniel, I just kind of talk about more about this Robert Downey Jr. thing.
Yeah.
Particularly because there's this information that's been coming out, him talking to various news outlets about whatever. So it sounds like, these conversations were starting over a year ago,
Sure.
which is pretty interesting. So first of all, it looked like Kevin was kind of brought in, and he was saying like, well, if we bring you back, they're like, well, what do you mean if? And I guess the implication was that in their conversation, Robert Downey Jr. took away from the fact that Kevin was thinking about bringing Robert back, but only if it didn't diminish something or if it didn't go backwards, if it only pushed things forward. And
Right.
it seemed like he's like, hey, let's talk about Doctor Doom. And this kind of lines up around the same time Jonathan Majors was being,
I'm sure it was right around the time that
yeah.
all was officially he was done.
Yeah, officially done, or just I mean, I guess gosh dang, it's been so long. The court stuff was, or the incident happened, I guess, in February, March of 2023. Dang,
Yeah, it was a couple years ago now.
time
Or
time
22.
flies.
Was it 22?
I think it was 23 because he
Okay.
got the court thing happened last fall, I believe,
Yeah,
and
that sounds
then
right.
he did his like press thing like early January, like a week or two afterwards.
Yeah.
So, and they dropped him within an hour of the
Right.
verdicts. So anyway, it seems like time wise, this started happening at the same time Kang was being booted out of the MCU, or the implication
Right.
that we could replace him, which is much different than like the idea of like, hey, Comic-Con is this week and like we're finalizing deals and like we're going to come back, Robert, and like, oh, I'll do that.
Sure.
So it makes
Makes
like, that
it
was
feel
kind of
less second.
less last second, and that they've been thinking about this for a while. Like this is something they've been thinking about for a while. And like they
Right.
really kind of grinded on it before they said, okay, this is something we want to bring to the masses. And there's even been reports now, people been like, yeah, I heard of this like a year ago. Like I heard, but I didn't report it because I didn't want to bust anyone's bubble and also get people in trouble. So it seems like Kevin Feige was like, yeah, let's get Victor Von Doom right. So it seems like he is playing Victor Von Doom.
Not
It's it
Robert Downey Jr. has come back to life and becomes Doom.
right.
Right. Not
Maybe.
the Tony Stark.
I don't
Not
100%
Tony.
know.
Is that what? I mean, is that how you interpret that? Is that he's not going to be a Tony Stark variant?
I kind of almost now interpret it where it could be the equivalent of, spoilers if you haven't seen Deadpool Wolverine, Chris Evans plays Captain America, and then Chris
Right.
Evans also plays the Human Torch.
Well, you got the same thing with the fast guy.
Fast guy.
Same situation. Wanda's
Diesel?
brother. Wanda's brother.
Oh, Peter or yeah. Peter. Is it Peter?
What's his name?
It's
His
Quicksilver.
superhero name. Quicksilver. Yeah, Peter.
It's Quicksilver,
Yeah.
but is it Peter Maximoff? Maybe I'm wrong there. I don't know.
I think that's right. Yep.
Okay. Well, anyway, what was his name in the show that was like
Something Dick.
Dick
or like
Cock or something? I don't remember what it was.
It was a big middle finger, is what it was. Yeah.
It was, yeah, that's what it should have been, Milvinger. Anyway, yeah, something like that. And there's precedent for it now. And I just kind
Sure.
of, now that we've been sitting on this Comic-Con announcement, I kind of want to ask you, does this still reek of desperation? What's your thoughts on this still?
I'm not sure it reeks of desperation. There is a little bit of it that maybe feels a little uninspired, right? Like, again, there is someone at a business perspective saying, this is perfect. We're bringing back the most popular actor this franchise has ever had. He has been in the most profitable movies this franchise has ever had. This only like literally just because he's in the movies, more butts will probably be in seats. You know what I mean? Just because he's coming back.
Curiosity.
Right, exactly. And so I think there is, to some degree, it's like, it doesn't necessarily feel like, oh, this came from like, this was the perfect creative idea, we have to do it like this. It still feels like it was fixing a problem which was Jonathan Majors is out, the MCU's slumping. How do we give it a kick in the nuts, to get it going again? I think, when we were talking the other day about this on text, and like there was that article that came out that said it was between RDJ and Mads Mikkelsen, right, for the role. And Mads has always been my I don't know who could be the better casting for Doctor Doom. He
wasn't Doctor Strange. Remember this? Which
yes,
really
but a much less consequential. Like it would be much easier to believe there's a variant of that character that ends up being Doom, because that guy was a fucking wizard, and so is Doctor Doom. Like there's way more
you're 100% right.
Connecting, actually, right? Like there's way more oh, that just makes sense. I mean, they could have revealed his name was actually Doom in this one, and our Doom just sucked balls and got beat by Doctor Strange in like an hour or whatever, But like. Yep. I do think that I with Robert Downey Jr., I think there's more potential for failure. I think if they fuck it up, we could be looking at like a multi-year break for we should be. Like if it fucks up hard enough, it's going to deflate things even harder. And I do think that the floor is lower potentially for Robert Downey Jr. I think they could fuck it up worse with him than they could with Mads, because of that kind of element of we're bringing back a beloved character and casting him in a new role. Does that make sense? Like if they had Mads, makes a lot of sense, yeah. and it was just okay, like it wasn't amazing, it was just fine, we'd say, oh, that's fine. If it's RDJ and it's just fine, it's going to feel more like a failure. Wow, they brought him back for this. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so but at the same time, I don't necessarily I do think if they had chosen Mads, they could have done it perfectly, and it would have felt like Thanos again, and War Endgame, Civil, just this, they did it. I think they can probably also do that with RDJ. You know what I mean? So I do feel like they both have maybe similar chances to I don't feel like, oh well, Mads would have just been absolutely better in any scenario. I don't know that. I think RDJ, if they do it right, if they don't make it feel forced, if they make it feel like this is the natural progression of the multiversal story, great. I'm in. I can't wait, and I hope I hope it is that. I hope it's perfect. But I feel like the risk is greater. I feel like you've got to. You can't be just good with this. You can't be good enough. Good enough will feel like a failure. It'll feel like, gosh, you brought him back for this. You know what I mean? So
the climb is definitely higher. A few things backing up. And one, yes, we will see diminishing returns in time over Marvel if this doesn't fail. But they're going to have movies already in pre-production by the time Avengers Secret Wars comes out. And so we're going to still a small drip feed. The box office will tell us, the critics will tell us, hey, are we done over this? Not again. I still think there's an opportunity to just reboot the universe. I don't know. They may just.
That's basically what happens at the end of Civil War, or the end of Secret Wars in the comics. Is it goes from all the multiverses to one, right? There's just one universe left.
Yeah, it's actually right behind me. Actually, They combined the Ultimate Universe and the.
So surely we're going that way, whether it would be a reboot or whether it would be a mix of characters.
It's a missed opportunity if they don't recast Iron Man and Captain America. I mean, why would you? You have the opportunity to start over again with the X-Men, with Spider-Man, whatever.
Well, that's what everyone's assuming, right? And I think there is a chance we do see that, is that this all happens, and when the universe reboot, it's kind of the X-Men are center stage for now, until maybe we bring in these other characters later.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Kind of makes sense too. Now we're in a universe where powers aren't prevalent again. They kind of were towards the end.
Yes, they're mutating, and
and
very much the X-Men are kind of their own Avengers group. You know what I mean? They're a team. They're led by a very strong character in Xavier. They have a very clear villain in Magneto. Yeah. They have everything they need within the X-Men universe to just tell their own stories forever. And so,
for sure, yeah. And so I'm very curious about that part of it. But the reason, again, if which almost brings credence to that, he's playing Victor Von Doom. If they were down to Mads Mikkelsen and him, if that's actually a true story,
right?
Because. Yeah. If it's one or the other, then it doesn't matter. Then it's not a Tony Stark variant, right? Then if it's because the only reason you pick Downey is because it's story related. Like there's no version unless they just completely
I mean, there are financial reasons, like I said. I think there are, whether they were the
no,
main
yeah.
reasons or subconscious or just helped. There are
Yeah, yeah,
there
yeah. I
there
mean, like,
is
yes, I know what you mean. I know. Yes, there are monetary reasons to pick Downey, but I think that you can't pick Downey without having story implications.
oh,
Like,
you've got to know what you're doing with it, right? You've
well, I
got to
mean, well, I'm
know.
saying like you can't pick him and just be like, and never reference that he looks like Tony Stark.
Oh,
You
you know,
can't.
right? Yeah, you've got yes, that has to be a part. I'm sure that's going to be at play
It
throughout some
has to
of it.
be. You
I
have to
mean,
see him do something horrible wearing Tony's face, and everyone like
and
it's
listen,
like
I know
you know,
there's comics where Doom becomes Iron Man, like after Tony
yeah,
dies, like takes up the Iron Man mantle.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah, he gets
it's
his face fixed and he's pretty again and he
yeah,
looks. I mean, and Doctor Doom looks kind of like like he's wearing an Iron Man armor kind of thing.
it's a very similar. They're very similar types of characters in some
Yeah,
ways. They're
they are very
geniuses. They have all
geniuses,
unlimited
intellect.
resources.
There's
I
a
mean,
version where
Doctor Doom feels like he has more innate powers. At least he's a
yeah,
sorcerer to a degree. But
there's a
other than
version
that,
where we see the events of Iron Man 1 play out again, where there's the bomb from his own technology and it blows up in front of him and it fucks up his face.
but then he is Tony Stark. He is literally Tony Stark, but he changes
Yeah,
his name later.
yeah. There's a version of that. I mean,
Yeah, you're
I
right,
see
and
that.
it could work.
I see that the most likely version. Now, I mean, also it's one of those things.
Yeah,
There was a plan for Civil War that did not include Spider-Man, right? Up until the moment, like
right. They
before,
had it
right
was
when
like
he
a
was cast.
contingency. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I think, and we granted, Spider-Man didn't completely change the trajectory of the plot of that movie. Is like a more of a cool side beat than anything, and
Yeah,
actually kind of
right.
slows things down, really. But
But it's so good you don't care. Yeah.
exactly. But I'm saying like and they're always changing things, doing reshoots. I bet there's contingencies like if we don't get Downey, then
Right,
we're
right.
going to not do this pull as Tony Stark's threat. And again, imagine Spider-Man fixing to punch Dr. Doom and his mask falls off and it's Tony Stark. How do you fight your best friend?
Sure.
Or your
Yeah,
mentor?
that seems like a very obvious confrontation that'll happen at some point.
Yeah.
Or just like all
I
the Avengers having to fight him, like all the original Avengers versus Tony.
yeah. Well, I guess
And
the question is we've talked when we had this conversation a few weeks back, but I feel it's a little more we know a little bit more now than we did then. Also, we kind of get a temperature of everybody.
yeah,
What's the chances of him also being Iron Man in these two movies, in Secret Wars at least?
I'd say kind of high.
Do you think it'll
I don't
diminish anything?
love it. I don't.
You think he'll be the
Anytime you
Pirate
have
Tony
two
Stark?
actors playing two different characters, to me, it's like this is just less interesting than having two different actors. Like I just would rather have two different people acting against each other.
Keep this in
most of the
mind
time.
too. So there was the idea. One of the things that were floating around was like, there's going to be Kang, the Council
Right,
of Kangs, and we're going to fight them, and we have to go find a good Kang to help us fight those
right,
Kangs.
right.
Do you think we're going to go find another Tony Stark variant to fight this Doctor Doom? Who can?
Mm.
We
That's
can't
how they
beat
could
him.
recast him. That would be an easy way to recast him at that point, and then that
I
becomes the
would
new
kind of like
Iron
to
Man.
see Tom Cruise finally get to be the superior Iron
There's
Man.
no way they're gonna. He's too old. I don't think they're gonna do it.
He won't be. They'll recast him again. I'm saying just for like this cool multiversal thing.
See, Tom Cruise felt like a great choice for Victor Von Doom. That like a superior Iron Man that becomes Victor Von Doom.
Yeah,
Dude, he would be
why
so.
didn't
He would be
God
so good at Victor
dang.
Von Doom, dude.
That would have been cool.
It would have been good. It'd been
Man,
good.
I like that better actually. I like the idea if he's Tony Stark becomes Victor Von Doom. Again, there's a version where like there's this multiverse stuff happening. There's incursions and there's I don't know. Doomsday. It sounds like he's gonna be wrecking shit in Doomsday. Like he's gonna come out of the gate like Thanos. So I just imagine he's gonna be at
Doomsday.
least. Well, Avengers Doomsday is first, then Secret
Oh,
Wars.
okay, yeah.
So I mean, again, look at this
Now,
like
here's the
Infinity War.
question:
They're gonna lose at the end of Doomsday.
Is he gonna be in Fantastic Four?
That's the question.
I mean,
I keep
casted him
saying,
just in time to slip him in there somewhere.
I keep
You know what I
saying
mean?
that he's going to be. I mean, like that's his. If they send the verbiage, we got to get Victor Von Doom right. Then that means he's got to be the arch nemesis to Reed Richards and
Yeah.
his
I mean,
college
Reed.
friend.
I mean, the final battle needs to be Reed versus
It
Doom.
has to
Like the moment where they finally beat Thanos, but it's you know what I mean? Like he finally loses his
Is it
god
odd?
powers, and then
Is it odd having the Fantastic Four come in so late to then be the basically the protagonist of these
I
films?
don't think so because for one, Fantastic Four is a known quantity. We all know the Fantastic Four. They were some of the most popular superheroes ever too. You know, up
Yeah.
there with Spider-Man, up there with the X-Men. It was the, you know, the family of superheroes. Like the, you know, it was
Yeah.
superheroes for families. And so and we've already had several iterations of movies. The first ones obviously I think are more loved than the second version of them. But I feel like we all know Reed Richards. We know Mr. Fantastic. It's easy for us to, I think, if they nail it, if they make us love them, which I think they will, and Pedro's Pedro, so he's going to be great in it.
He's going to be great in it.
And so it seems like like he is the obvious Tony Stark successor in that like power dynamic of all the superheroes. You know what I mean? Like, and he is so often like the main dude of like so many big plots. I mean, Reed Richards is like,
He's the smartest guy in the universe.
yeah, and even like, you know, the Ultimate universe, it's like he has a different name in that universe, right? It's not, he's like
He's the moniker. The
the
moniker.
monitor. Is that it? Okay, whatever he is,
Moniker. Yeah.
something.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm currently reading the new Ultimates reboot, and it's so good, dude. It's so good.
The new Ultimate reboot.
It just happened the last like 3-4 months, and it's like basically
The
Ultimate
Maker.
Universe's big.
His name is the Maker.
That's right, the
The
Maker.
Maker.
He's got a big fucking techno hat.
He's got yeah. He kind of looks like a cyberpunk.
He's a bad guy. He's a bad guy.
Right. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But even that is like, I think that's like, I don't know. I think Reed Richards is like, I love that it's Pedro because I think he'll be happy doing the role for a while. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
he is a list A
Real quick,
plus.
let me tell you the
actor, so.
plot of this Ultimate Universe thing. This is
Yeah.
I can do it really quickly. So what's happening right now is, the Ultimate Universe has been reborn again, so it's back to square
And this
one.
is after Secret Wars distilled it down to just 1616, and now the
Yeah,
universe
that
is
was
being
like
born again.
that was like 10 years ago. Yeah, it's back. We're back. We're back
Okay.
again. And so the Maker essentially has traveled back in time and rewritten the universe where no one got superpowers, but only like the bad guys.
Gotcha.
And so it's a modern day. Peter Parker was never Spider-Man. He's like in his mid-30s, late 30s now, all
Sure.
these kind of things. And they end up at the beginning, Tony Stark and them, who is like a younger kid. He's accused of like this terrorist attack. His father was kind of more Iron Man than he was.
Mm,
And he kind of finds out that this wasn't the world that they were supposed to live in. Like there was supposed to be a guy called
Gotcha.
Spider-Man, and he was supposed to be
Yeah.
Iron Man, all these kind of things. So they end up stopping or catching the Maker into like a prism, but like it's going to like blow up in like 18 months, which
Sure.
18 months of our time. So it's
Sure.
like there's 18 issues
Yeah.
before the Maker's out. So what they do is they go back in time, and they like 6 months or whatever, and they give all these supposed to be heroes the chance to be Spider-Man or be
Right.
Ant-Man or
Right.
whatever.
Right.
And but it's like a loop situation where they go back in time, but they're immediately back in the present. And like, okay, when we come back, there should be all these superheroes. And they come back, and like only 5% of them chose to be superheroes.
Mm,
Like, well, know what they know. They only 5%. Of course, Peter Parker chose to be
of
Spider-Man,
course. Yeah.
but like most of them are still not. So like
Yeah.
the odds are so stacked against them still. But it's like Peter Parker, but he's got 2 kids, and he's married to MJ, and he's like in his late 30s, and he's being Spider-Man now for the first time.
Oh wow. Okay.
And so it's
Interesting.
so good, and it's like really well written. And Uncle Ben's alive, and him and J. Jonah Jameson are doing their own little newspaper. I mean,
Oh,
it is
wow.
so good, dude. And like
It's just like a
just
cool
per-
alternate reality for all
Oh
these
man,
characters.
it's like
yeah.
it's a perfect example of like, I kind of restarted the Spider-Man
Yeah.
2 game where like you can change material and you can change the lore and mess with
In
these things
interesting
and
ways. Yeah.
in interesting ways, and it still works. Like we're not as fans, we're not beholden to
Well, and
it has to be this.
That's the beautiful thing about comics is that there's so many versions of everything already. Doing a new one doesn't feel weird. You know what I mean? Like even the
100%.
Arkham games, you know, I've been dipping back into tonight, and like their version of Batman is theirs. And like he is this weird mishmash up of like so many different other Batman stories. Like there's obviously a lot of like the Killing Joke is very much they basically just did that 1-to-1 almost.
Yeah.
You know, several things like that where they're just pulling things from his famous stories and incorporating it. But it's very much own version of Batman. And one of the fun parts of that game to me is going around and seeing all the ways they change certain things for their world. You know what I mean? Like, and seeing like, oh, how do they do this character? Or how do they do this famous moment or whatever, you know? And that's fun. It's also an example of how you can do it and not totally succeed. I mean, I think pretty much everyone feels like, you know, the Jason Todd Arkham Knight Red Hood thing just was not it. And everyone knew it was obvious from the beginning, but then especially halfway through the game when Joker just starts telling you the backstory of Jason Todd in the middle of a mission, you're like, huh, this seems oddly pertinent.
Yep.
You know, not that it's so weird because it probably is Mark Hamill's best performance as the Joker, maybe in anything, because he gets so much room to just be fucking weird. And like, I mean, the fucking musical moment when he's singing the like, take me back to the asylum. You know what I mean? Like, there's just he's.
And we didn't know he was going to be in that either. Like, it wasn't until the first 5 minutes of the game we're like, "Whoa, Mark Hamill's back as the Joker!"
And
like,
he like gets more room to shine because he's always with you. Like, he's always popping. You're always coming up to like on top of a building, and he's just chilling there making comments at you, and it's great. You know. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, I think that's. I've been on kind of a superhero kick, just like been watching lots of the Batman animated stuff and all that stuff. So.
The last thing we'll talk about real quick, and this will be really short because I have to get off here, is at Gamescom they had gameplay for the new Batman Arkham Shadow, the VR MetaQuest game. Yeah. But dude, did you play the Batman Arkham VR game?
No, was it good?
Dude. It's like I
remember, is it first person Batman?
It's first person Batman.
Okay.
And like you're going and you're suiting up, you're in the Batcave. It's like
that does sound cool.
It's very limited to what the new one is going to be, where you're kind of more combat-y, kind of free roaming around. This one was more on rails, but you were still doing stuff like investigating. It was really cool. You're investigating stuff just like you did in Arkham. But there's a moment.
But you're able to like look around because you're in 3D.
Oh, dude, there was a moment where I was playing, and I was looking at my Batman hands, and like I kind of was like, "Am I Batman?"
Your mind was trying to believe the
my mind was kind of like not really sure I was at because the wall. I was like in these set of walls, and I was like, it was like this really weird moment for a second. We were
that's when VR works. You know what I mean? Like that's when you're doing like even like the Vader Immortal game. You know, for VR, it had a similar like it's not constant, and I think that's the limitation of the technology is that you're not constantly in that place of cognitive dissonance. But when it hits just right, when the room's just right, when you're kind of focused just right, there is a point where you kind of start it's like the suspension of belief can kick in and you start actually believing and feeling like you're just in this world. And like, again, the technology isn't there to keep us in that state constantly. Like there's too many, like it's not high def enough. It is a little bit disorientating. You can't keep the goggles on long enough or too long before you start feeling a little disoriented, but once they find a way to keep us in that place of suspension of disbelief throughout the entire experience, that's when I feel like at that point are we just in a holodeck too? You know what I mean?
10 more years, man. We need to do 10, 15 more years, and we'll get to truly live out our fantasies. I mean, I was this close to buying the Apple VR, whatever it's called, and
Apple goggles or whatever.
Apple Vision Pro or whatever. And so I was this close to buying it because it has so many cool applications, and I wanted to sit on Avengers Tower and watch Avengers. You know, so that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, very cool stuff. Anyway, Daniel, how can our listeners write into us?
Listeners, you can write into bit.ly/241 mail and let us know what you think of any of the things we talked about today. I think I had a fun time just gushing about random shit and talking about fun stuff. So is there anything that you latched onto, anything you want to make a comment about? I want to thank Joel Williams. He wrote in after our last episode and recommended our last episode. We also talked about some Batman animated films. And so he wrote in with a list of kind of recommendations in those. I started watching Justice League Dark because of that recommendation, and I've been enjoying it. I didn't realize it was I didn't realize it was kind of like a post-apocalyptic. It's almost like it feels a little bit like Avengers Endgame, where it's like, well, no, he won, and now we have to like figure out how to make him unwin. But anyway, so thank you, Joel, for writing in. You can write in as well to bit.ly/241mail.
Also, listeners, I want you to all tell me your opinion on the Acolyte and make sure you tag or mention Joe Williams and how he's wrong about it. We may have to bring Joel on just to like, hey, Joel, what, like, I don't know. I don't know. I can't justify all your love for the Acolyte, Joel. I just
Joel, you're
can't.
too
I'm really
happy.
trying.
You're too happy, man. You love life too much, and it's bothering us. So can you stop?
That's the problem. I think I was closer to Joel years ago in terms of like my temperament and mentality on
Sure.
things. And as life has beaten me down and I've gotten more educated on like film writing and script writing, these kind of things, I think it's like a combination of the two of maybe more cynicism or
Sure. Yeah,
just
frustration.
yeah,
It's harder when you understand how the pie is made, or whatever that, I don't know, whatever that phrase is. And you start to understand how good all the pies can be. Then you're like, but if I'm not getting a good pie, why? Like, it was right there. You could have made a good pie, but why did you fucking use salt instead of sugar? You dumbass.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So
yeah.
yeah. Anyway, yeah,
Uh,
I know what you mean. There's a downside to knowing the behind the scenes of it, is that
yeah.
it's much easier to recognize when it's not done well.
But just like the light and dark, we need a Joel Williams out there to
We do. We do.
balance us out. So I
We
like
do.
getting his text and telling us how we're wrong and
I do
those
too.
kind of
I do
things.
too.
Yeah, those are nice.
I appreciate his stalwart. That word's enthusiasm.
Star Wars.
Stalwart. Yeah,
Yeah.
Star Wars. Yeah, I appreciate his unyielding positivity. I wish I could have some of it sometimes. Sometimes.
I wish I would, yeah, all the time. Anyway, my name is Alvin Thompson,
I'm Daniel Wingfield.
and we have spoken.